Imagine for a moment the Earth as seen from space. It is a familiar, beautiful blue marble, swirling with white clouds, serene and silent. Now imagine a switch is flipped. For 10 seconds, a fundamental component of our world simply ceases to exist. Not all the air, but one specific, vital part, oxygen. The clock starts now, 10 seconds. The first second is not silent. It is a moment of profound physical change. With 21% of the air molecules gone, the atmospheric pressure plummets instantly. It would be equivalent to being suddenly transported from sea level to an altitude of over 2,000 meters, or about 7,000 feet. Your inner ears, which are pressurized to your surroundings, would feel this change immediately and violently. For everyone on the planet, there would be a simultaneous, painful pop as the pressure differential equalizes. This sudden drop in pressure would create a phantom wind. Air would rush to fill the partial void, but with a fifth of its substance gone, the overall effect is a sudden thinning. Unsealed windows might rattle, and doors could slam shut or fly open depending on the pressure differences inside and outside a building. Papers on a desk might lift into the air, and dust motes would dance in a chaotic swirl. It would feel as if the world had taken a sudden sharp gasp, a physical jolt that would be impossible to ignore and terrifyingly inexplicable to all who experience it. Sound itself would be affected. Sound waves travel through a medium, in this case, the air. With the air now significantly less dense, sound would not travel as efficiently. Voices would seem quieter, more distant. The ambient hum of a city would be strangely muffled, as if the planet had suddenly been wrapped in a layer of felt. For the planet, this is a moment of atmospheric disruption on a global scale. The complex dance of weather patterns would be thrown into disarray. While 10 seconds is too short a time for a new hurricane to form, the initial shockwave of pressure change would ripple through the atmosphere, a chaotic signal that would disrupt meteorological models and create unpredictable turbulence. The sky has not yet changed color, but the very substance of the air has been fundamentally altered, setting the stage for the chaos to come. Your body is a finely tuned machine, and its most urgent need is a constant supply of oxygen. While you can consciously hold your breath for a minute or more, this event is different. Your last breath in contained the normal amount of oxygen, and your blood is still carrying a reserve supply to your cells. You do not suffocate instantly. For the first 2 or 3 seconds, you might just feel a profound sense of confusion, coupled with the pain in your ears. Your body's automatic breathing reflexes would kick in, and you would attempt to inhale. That next breath would be a terrifying disappointment. You would draw in a lungful of air that contains no fuel. The air itself would feel thin and unsatisfying, but the critical failure is chemical. Your lungs would absorb the nitrogen and other gases, but the life-giving oxygen would be absent. Your brain, the most oxygen-hungry organ in your body, would be the first to sound the alarm. Within 4 to 5 seconds, you would begin to feel lightheaded and dizzy. Your vision might start to tunnel, and a tingling sensation could spread through your extremities. Panic would be an immediate and dangerous multiplier. The strange pressure change, the muffled sounds, and the sudden feeling of breathlessness would trigger a primal fear response. Your heart rate would spike. In crowded places, subways, shopping malls, office buildings, mass panic could lead to stampedes and injuries long before the 10 seconds are up. People would collapse not just from hypoxia, but from being trampled in the desperate, confused rush. By the 10-second mark, many people would be losing consciousness. The exact timing depends on individual health, fitness, and activity level at the moment the oxygen vanished. Someone resting quietly might remain conscious for the full duration, albeit in a state of severe distress. An athlete in the middle of a sprint would succumb much faster. For those with pre-existing respiratory or cardiovascular conditions, these 10 seconds could be a fatal window. The body's delicate internal chemistry would be thrown into chaos, a silent and swift internal crisis unfolding within billions of people simultaneously. Almost every flame on Earth requires oxygen to burn. In that first instant, a great and sudden silence would descend upon our technology. All fires would be extinguished. Campfires, gas stoves, candles, and industrial furnaces would simply go out. The process is not an explosion, but an implosion of energy. The chemical reaction of combustion would be starved of its key ingredient. Our beautiful blue sky is a result of Rayleigh scattering, where sunlight scatters off molecules in the atmosphere, with blue light scattering more effectively than red light. Nitrogen is the primary contributor to this effect, so the sky would not turn black. However, the absence of oxygen and the related ozone molecules would alter the composition of the atmospheric lens. The sky might appear a deeper, darker shade of blue, and the sun itself would seem harsher, its light less diffused. The ozone layer, our planetary sunscreen, is made of O3, a molecule composed of 3 oxygen atoms. While the ozone layer is vast and would not be destroyed in 10 seconds, the immediate chemical shield it provides would be compromised. Without O2 in the lower atmosphere, the process of ozone creation and destruction would be paused. This would allow a slightly higher dose of ultraviolet radiation from the sun to reach the surface. It would not be enough to cause instantaneous, severe sunburns on a global scale, but the increase would be measurable and potentially harmful, a sign of our protective shield being weakened. The world would look starker. The quality of sunlight would shift, casting sharper, more defined shadows. The visual world would feel colder and more clinical. It would be a world that looks almost the same, but feels fundamentally wrong, as if we had been transported to another planet with a slightly different set of physical laws. Our modern world runs on fire. The internal combustion engine, the heart of our transportation network, a machine that harnesses controlled explosions. Without oxygen, there is no combustion. Every gasoline-powered vehicle would stall simultaneously. Every diesel-powered vehicle would stall simultaneously. On a busy highway, catastrophic chain reactions would unfold. Visual emphasis: multi-lane highway standstill, cars angled, smoke from collisions. Cars coasting at speed would suddenly lose power. Power steering would fail. Power brakes would fail. The result would be a chain reaction of collisions on a scale never before seen. Air travel would enter a state of extreme peril. Jet engines suck in vast quantities of air. They compress the air. They mix it with fuel. They ignite it to make thrust. No oxygen, no thrust. Every jet aircraft in the sky would suddenly go quiet, engines falling silent. Pilots can glide planes long distances, but with every plane in emergency and ATC possibly failing, mid-air collisions and disastrous emergency landings would be likely. Power generation would be critically affected. Thermal plants burning coal. Thermal plants burning natural gas. Thermal plants using other fuels. They heat water into steam. Steam turns turbines. Those massive fires would be extinguished instantly. Turbines would continue to spin briefly from residual momentum and steam pressure. But automated shutdowns and cascading failures would follow, plunging vast regions into darkness. The infrastructure of our cities would seize up. Elevators would stop. Occupants trapped. Water pumps would fail. Pressure drops in high-rises. Automated factory systems would halt. Pneumatic and combustion systems stop. The complex, interconnected machine of a modern metropolis would grind to a halt. The 10-second pause would not just be an event experienced by people, it would be a systemic shock that would break the backbone of our technological civilization. At the 10-second mark, oxygen floods back into the atmosphere. This return is not gentle. It is a violent, explosive event. The air pressure would instantly surge back to normal, causing another painful equalization in everyone's ears. But the most dramatic effect would be on all the things that stopped burning. Glowing embers in a fireplace, the hot filament of an industrial furnace, the superheated metal inside a jet engine. They would now be re-exposed to a fresh supply of fuel. Unburnt fuel would have accumulated while oxygen was gone. When oxygen returns, that fuel can ignite all at once. The violent explosive event is called a backdraft. Car engines that were still hot could suffer catastrophic failures. Industrial plants could suffer massive explosions. House fires that had been momentarily quelled would roar back to life with terrifying force. Fires would then spread far more rapidly than before. The return of oxygen would be more destructive than its departure. For people who lost consciousness, the return would be a jarring reawakening. They would gasp for air as their lungs refill. Most would recover with headaches, confusion, disorientation, but sudden pressure change could cause barotrauma, damaging lungs and inner ears. Those who fell or were trampled would awaken to broken bones and other injuries. They would wake to chaos, sirens, the smell of smoke. The mechanical world would be in ruins. Even if an engine didn't explode, massive pileups would cause immense damage and loss of life. Airplanes that glided would still face a harrowing restart. A reignition of a jet engine at altitude is violent. It could cause severe structural damage to the engine or wing. The world's technological systems would not simply turn back on. They would be broken, burned, battered. In the minutes and hours that follow, the true cost of those 10 seconds would become clear. Humanity would survive, but it would be wounded and humbled. The immediate aftermath would be a global medical crisis. Hospitals, likely running on backup power, would be overwhelmed. Hypoxia, barotrauma, burns from flash fires, injuries from vehicle collisions and stampedes. Transportation networks break down. Emergency services can't reach many in need. The tragedy compounds. The world's infrastructure needs monumental repair. The power grid must be brought back online, carefully and slowly. Millions of stalled and crashed vehicles block the roads. Thousands of fires, big and small, must be fought. Emergency crews are themselves struggling. A recovery effort unparalleled in human history. All from a pause shorter than it takes to read this paragraph. Nature, mostly, would recover quickly. Plants and animals would be stressed, but long-term ecological damage would be limited. Oceans with vast, dissolved oxygen would buffer aquatic life. The real story: the fragility of our built world. Our civilization is a house of cards, built on continuity. We assume the sun will rise. We assume gravity will hold us down. We assume the air will be there to breathe. Removing one constant, even briefly, invites collapse. So, could we recover? Yes, likely. Humanity is resilient. But the world would be fundamentally changed. Not just physically, but psychologically. We'd carry a permanent collective memory of our vulnerability. We live and thrive at the mercy of a precise chemical mixture in a thin atmospheric shell. Those 10 seconds would be the ultimate reminder. Our planet is not just a rock we live on. It is active. It is complex. It is fragile. A life support system. How differently would we treat our world if we truly understood how quickly it could all be taken away?